It's that time of year again. We have a tradition on this channel where every year on President's Day I count down the top 10 presidents. This year, however, I'll do something a little different. In anticipation of the Switch 2, I will try to determine which presidents would buy the Switch 2. Without further ado, let's count down the top 10 presidents. Number 10. Number 10 goes to recurring number 10 champion Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was the 28th president and did a lot for the country. He got the nation through World War I, as well as had the idea for the League of Nations, which although it failed, it laid the groundwork for the United Nations. He was also on the $100,000 gold certificate, a bill used only for transactions between banks. Woodrow Wilson was also a very progressive president, which makes me think he would be open to the idea of buying a Switch 2. Number 9. Number 9 goes to Bill Clinton, who's moving down from last year. Bill Clinton had an interesting presidency. He worked a lot with foreign affairs in the Middle East and Africa, including working to catch Osama bin Laden. He also signed the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, which allowed people to take unpaid leave for injury or childcare. As for the Switch 2, well, he did like to smash with Monica Lewinsky. Number 8. Number 8 goes to Dwight Eisenhower. Eisenhower was a general during World War II and enacted many great policies, such as the Interstate Highway Act. He also created NASA and helped to push the development of nuclear power plants. Because of his service against Japan in World War II, I don't think he would want to buy a Switch 2 initially, but seeing how much highway he built, it would be hard for him to resist all of that Mario Kart. Number 7. Number 7 goes to John F. Kennedy. JFK really needs no introduction. He led the nation through the height of the Cold War, including the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was also very charismatic and beloved by voters. Kennedy would probably not buy a Switch 2, instead opting to be a PC gamer where he can play his favorite game, Sniper Elite 5. Number 6. Number 6 goes to Theodore Roosevelt. Roosevelt was known as the trust-busting president, as he helped to destroy many business monopolies. He was also a really cool guy, being a boxer, keeping a bear as a pet in the White House, and getting shot during a speech, and not seeking medical attention until the speech was over. He ran against William Howard Taft and Woodrow Wilson in 1912, and while he didn't win, he got more votes than Taft. He and Taft also kind of look like Mario and Wario, respectively, which is why I think they would both buy Switch 2s. Number 5. Number 5 goes to Franklin D. Roosevelt. FDR was the longest running president, being elected for 4 whole terms. His first 2 terms were spent fixing the Great Depression, while the second 2 were spent fighting World War II, and the whole time he could barely walk due to polio. I don't think FDR would want to buy a Switch 2 for similar reasons as Eisenhower, but he might come around to it if they port his favorite game, Stephen Hawking's Pro Wheelchair. Number 4. Number 4 goes to James Polk. Polk was an underappreciated president who did a lot to make the nation what it is today. He established the border between Canada and America to be the 49th parallel. He also annexed Texas and claimed lots of territory from Mexico. He was also the first president to be photographed, which means he's very open to new technology, which is why I think he would buy a Switch 2. Number 3. Number 3 goes to Thomas Jefferson. Like Polk, Jefferson also acquired lots of US territory. In fact, he acquired the most amount of territory out of any president. Jefferson sent many expeditions west to discover the Northwest Passage, as well as to chart the newly acquired territory from the Louisiana Purchase. With his obsession with discovery, I think Thomas Jefferson would love playing The Legend of Zelda on his Switch 2. Number 2. Number 2 goes to Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln led the nation through the Civil War, freed the slaves, and reunited the Union. Lincoln was a very honest man, and I honestly think he would buy a Switch 2. Also, if he had a Switch, he would have had enough Smash Bros practice to not miss the spot dodge at Ford's Theater. Before I get to number 1, I'd like to give some honorable mentions. Jimmy Carter would have probably bought a Switch 2, considering how many farming games are on the Switch that pad every single Nintendo Direct. Ronald Reagan wouldn't buy a Switch 2, but instead, as other people bought a Switch 2, a Switch Lite would trickle down to him. Finally, both Grover Cleveland and Donald Trump would buy a Switch 2 after not having played their launch edition Switches for 4 years. Number 1. Number 1 goes to George Washington. Washington was our first president and set the gold standard for presidents going forward. He served as general in the American Revolution. He created the executive departments of War, State, and Treasury, and he set the 2-term limit. I think George Washington would buy a Switch 2, as whether the US gained independence through war or a Smash tournament, Washington would have brought us to victory. With that, we come to the end of 2025's top 10 presidents. I hope you enjoyed this list, and if you liked the video, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.